In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the coolant reservoir in your Nissan Rogue located on the passenger side inner fender well. Using a 10mm socket, go ahead and loosen and remove this nut. Go ahead and set that aside. Disconnect the expansion tank hose at the top of your radiator. Pinch in on these clips right here. Slide that clamp down. Grab this here and give that a little twist and slide that off. Now we're going to hold this up as we remove it. We don't want the coolant from the expansion tank to run out of this onto the ground. As we pass this through, you can put your finger over the end of it. And pull that up and through. Now with your vehicle on jack stands, this is going to allow you to go ahead and now use your jack with a block of wood. You're going to put this on the oil pan and you're going to gently just apply some upward pressure. We're not lifting the vehicle, we're simply supporting the engine's weight right here. Now we're going to go ahead and use an 18mm socket to loosen and remove this mount bolt right here. We can't pull the expansion tank out because it hits the mount. We need to remove this bracket, this mount, and this bolt. Go ahead and pull that bolt out, set that aside. We're now going to go ahead and loosen the top 5 bolts right here. I'm just going to use my socket extension and ratchet to break these free. At this point here, we can see that these bolts here are getting a little tighter. Go ahead and use your jack and just gently put a little extra oomph into that to raise that motor up or hold it in place. These bolts here are specific: short bolt, short bolt, short bolt, a little bit longer of a bolt, and another one a little bit longer. So we used a 16mm socket to go ahead and remove these 5 bolts up top. The 3 for this are the same. So go ahead and use that and your extension. Loosen and remove those. You can go ahead and lower that motor just a little bit. Do that slowly with your jack. Now with that motor lowered a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and just take your mount, just kind of twist it off to the side a little bit. Now you're going to take the expansion tank, you're going to lift it towards you, twist it out, and then work it up at an angle. And we'll show you why in just a minute. Is now coming out. Grab that hose with it as well. So this is what we had to remove from the inside of the fender. We had to twist this out to get this little locking tab out of the fender. If you want to go ahead and reuse your coolant, make sure you dump that into a clean bucket so you can go ahead and reuse it. Otherwise, dump it into the appropriate container and discard it. Once you have the lid off, you can also just go ahead and dump that into your bucket. Now we've gotten all kinds of debris coming out of this tank here. We're probably not going to reuse this coolant here because we don't want to put this back into the system. I'm going to screw the cap back onto the bottle. We are going to reuse the hose here. So what you can do, go to the bottom here, going to pinch that little clamp, slide that back and twist this hose off. And go ahead and set that hose aside. Go ahead and install the lower hose here. And slide the clamp back into position. Now I'm going to go ahead and feed the hose through. Bring that up and around. Just going to hang that off on the side for now. Let's go ahead and install the little lock tab here into the inner part of the fender well. We're going to insert it at an angle and then feed the tank in. Now I'm just going to find. Once that's locked in the back there, go ahead and slide the tank back onto the stud and push that tank back. Go ahead and install the nut on the tank to the strut tower here. I'm going to thread that on as far as I can by hand. And then we'll go ahead and snug that down. Once that nut bottoms out, just give it a little bit more. You're all set with that. Install the hose to the radiator. Slide your clamp down into place. Reinsert the hose into the retainer on the cooling fan right here. Go ahead and jack up that engine. Line your mount up here. We can go ahead and start dropping the bolts into the upper mount area. Lower that just a little bit. And then you can just go ahead and rock that motor. Get those bolts to drop in. And what you want to do is get these bolts started by hand first. You want to get them in several threads. And what I'm going to do is jack this up just a tiny bit. Now let's go ahead and snug down those bolts on that mount. Now with that motor jacked up, you can go ahead and you can see we have a little bit of room here to move this. I'm going to go ahead and just move that motor by hand and get these 3 bolts started. Before we get these 3 bolts tightened down, let's go ahead and install the horizontal bolt here for this other mount. I'm going to line that up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the jack to move that motor up and down until we can get this to line up. There it is right there. Definitely want to get this started by hand. Thread that in as far as you can. Now at this point here, we want to go ahead and lower the jack and remove that. Just roll the jack out. Let's go ahead and tighten down these 3 bolts here. Let's tighten down the horizontal bolt on the upper mount. We have our cap right here. I'm going to go ahead and fill this up. Now on the coolant tank here, the max line for our fluid is pretty much right where the seam is here on the mold, and then the min line is further down near the bottom of the tank. Let's go ahead and use a clean funnel and use the appropriate recommended coolant for the vehicle. We're going to fill this up to that seam. Once you're filled up, take the funnel out, install the cap. Go ahead and torque this bolt to 51 foot-pounds. Go ahead and torque the 3 bolts down here to 46 foot-pounds. Go ahead and torque these 5 upper bolts to 46 foot-pounds. Now that these are all torqued completely, you're now completed the job.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.